Okay, here we have a bowl of water, and over here we have some pieces of the Oyumaru and Mr. Dinosaur. So what I'm going to do is put the Oyumaru in the water. I'm only one-handed right now, so I'm going to put it in the microwave because the other hand's holding the camera. Yeah, you have to ignore the mess. We have a birthday party coming up. Put it in the microwave. Now, this doesn't take too long, so actually it's going to take longer than that. I gotta boil the water. I'm not going to record the whole boiling water process because that's just going to be boring and annoying to us. So let me stop real quick. I'll come back when the water's okay. Speaking of water boiling, right here we have our common everyday Thunderpaws. What do you think of this whole process, Thunderpaws? The funny thing is, he knows what a camera is, and he behaves very differently on camera than he does in real life. Don't you, Mr. Paws? Hmm? Yeah, you do. You behave very differently in real life. And hopefully you guys can get an idea how big he is by that corner. Because those are normal kitchen cabinets. He's 20 pounds now. He's gained some weight. And we have a nice rainy Texas day here. Okay. This is hot enough. I can tell the water was boiling over the edge a little. I gotta make sure I hold the bowl by the edge. And I picked this bowl out at the dollar store for a reason, because it had that big lip on it. It meant the edge wouldn't burn your hand while you were working. Okay? Now, some of the stuff you need when you're working with Oyumaru. Sorry, I got a shoulder camera mount and it's not comfortable. Is paper towel, because you got to dry this stuff off. I want the water in there. The other thing you need are some tweezers, tongs, because you're not sticking your hand in there to get that. It's far too hot. And since it's sticking to the tweezers, I know I got my Oyumaru soft enough for what I want. And you have to work it while it's hot. And see, it's squishy right now. I need a texture from the bottom of the tail. I might have to set the camera down, but you just basically press this in. I'm gonna set the camera down. I'll come back in a second. Okay, I made one. I'm gonna see if I can do the other one with the camera. I'm drying the Oyumaru off. And you have to be careful because it will stick to the paper towel if you press it too hard into the paper towel. Alright, now I'm trying to get a flat edge on it, so I fold the Oyumaru in half. Now the area I want the texture from on Mr. Dinosaur, I'm going to undo the shoulder mount some, is right across, this stuff's starting to cure up pretty quick, is right across here. So you take it, and you just press it in there. See, it's starting to stick, and it's also curing up because it's getting cooler. You peel it off, and it picks up that texture really well. And then, what usually works best, I'm going to switch shoulders with the camera. What usually works best is you take your Oyumaru and you put it in the freezer for a little bit. If you can hold on to it, you put it in the freezer for a little bit. Hopefully, I'm not losing any of those textures I just stamped into it. I don't think I am, because it's close to room temperature as it is. Put it in the freezer for a little bit and it cures up pretty quick. By the time I dispose of my hot water, it'll be fine. Okay? Now, another thing I'm doing with the Oyumaru, let me dump this hot water, because I don't need that anymore. Always clean up your messes, especially when you're in the wife's domain, because that's just not going to be good. Okay? But another thing, boy, I just completely lost track of what I was thinking. Oh, put the camera back the way it was. There we go. Oh yeah, now I remember. The other thing I like to do with Oyumaru, that big box right there, you can see it peeking through, is my Lego Star Destroyer. You can see it poking through there. There's a video, if you dig through my videos, you'll find it eventually. What I like to do is take a Ziploc bag and label the Ziploc bag with where the Oyumaru pieces come from on Mr. Dino. I have one for feet, arms, legs, and now I'm making one for tail. And a good old Sharpie will let you do that. Except for I'm right-handed and I'm holding the camera with the right hand. So you guys are going to miss this part. I'm going to set the stop. Okay. Now you can see tail. Alright. So when those pieces come out of the freezer, they go in the bag, so I know what the pieces are for. And they should be ready to come out of the freezer now. It doesn't take long for it to cure up in the freezer. Stuff responds to temperature changes really well. And of course, the camera wants to focus on anything but what's in my hand. It's one of the complaints. I just read some reviews about this camera. One of the complaints about it is it's really slow for autofocus. It wants to focus on anything but what's in your hand. There you go. So you can see it picks up the textures really well. It's really easy to work with too. Alright everyone, I'm going to go take this boy upstairs and start working on the tail seam. Okay everyone, we're going to take a look around the hobby room. Call this a weekly update. You can see I've got the hose stretched out and the hose is mounted on the spray booth now because I got to use the spray booth today. That area's cleaned up. My workbench is mostly cleaned up. This over here is getting there. Okay. I'm going to put that's attic access. I'm going to put some shelves in the attic and put some of this stuff that's there in the attic. I want that to be shelf queen area. The model kits are pretty much put away. The group workstation, if you want to call it that, or just the work table in general for the family, is still cluttered with a few things. A lot of that can go in the attic, so I will get that straightened up pretty quickly. In other words, this room's pretty close to being done. And that is a good thing. We got some trash in here that's going out in a few minutes. That's a good thing. A hallway, on the other hand, no, we are still working on the hobby room. Not the hobby room, the media room. Anyhow, I'm going to get busy. I'll be back in a little while. Okay, everyone. I am working on making cast of the dinosaur feet. I'm about to start working on the seam of this guy. And again, lunch here doesn't need any seam filling, so I'm not worried about that because the two seams are, you're going to have to really crawl down in there to see them. With this guy sitting on top of it, with his foot on top of lunch like that, you're not going to really see any seams, okay? Maybe a teeny bit of one, but not enough to really care. So I'm not going to worry about lunch here. Okay? In other words, this is getting primered today. The base is getting primer coated today. But before any of that gets the primer, this gets the primer, because I'm not so sure I'm going to use the T-Rex logo plate. But it's the only part I have of this kit that I might not use. And they didn't give me sprue or any shavings. I want to see if we have a bad interaction with the primer. So that's going to get it first. But anyhow, before I even talk primer, I'm going to mix up some resin for the feet. I've got 2 cups here. Easier throwaway medicine cup type things. You don't want to use anything as a keeper here, and I don't think I need a lot of resin. So I'm going to just pour some of this in. Now this is your 2-part epoxy resin. This is just formulated to cure clear. And I'm using it because it's what I have on hand. And it's a little bit thinner than your epoxy glue. I'm sure it would work just like your glue if you really wanted it to. I need a little bit more of the yellow. A teeny bit more of the yellow. That's probably all I need of the yellow. More of the yellow. I like to keep my bottles clean. Let's see how that is. Yeah, it's perfect. I got some toothpicks for stirring with, and I'm just going to pour the clear in there with the yellow. Try to get as much of this out of there as I can. Now granted, something else might be better to work with than the toothpicks for getting it out. Yeah, probably. But the toothpicks are throwaway. And they'll let me work that out. Now this stuff takes almost 24 hours to cure, so I am not worried about hurrying. I'm not worried about air bubbles when I mix this. This is the same stuff I used on the TIE Fighter to make the clear interior parts. And again, I found it in the jewelry department of Hobby Lobby instead of the model making department. It was the same stuff in the model making department, and it was $5 more. They sell more of it in the jewelry department. This is labeled for jewelry. When you really got down into the nitty gritty of it, it was the exact same stuff made by the exact same company. They just labeled it differently and charged less because they sell more of it to the jewelry people. So there's a hint. Look around your big box hobby shops. Now, a thought occurred to me before I pour this stuff on my nice workbench. I'm going to lay down something to keep my workbench from getting messed up. So I'm getting some aluminum foil. Okay. I do have some silicone mold making stuff here. I didn't want to waste the silicone on it. The Oyumaru will do the same purpose. The Oyumaru is reusable. So when my next project comes along, I don't have to keep these two around. And I think that's a good property of the Oyumaru. And I'm pouring this in there. And we'll pour some over here and let that spread. Again, I'm not trying to get a perfect mold here. I just need footprints. I want to make dinosaur footprints in my Dinorama base. In order to do that, I gotta have a copy of them. Okay, and that should do it right there. And that's probably going to flow. Yep, it's flowing over the edges. I don't worry about that. That's why I did the aluminum foil down. Now, one other thing I can do, I'm going to get out one of these sheets for the arms. This is the impression mold I made for the arm. Okay? Now, Norm LaForge, Norm, correct me if I say your name wrong, suggested this years ago. He said, put a little bit of resin down on one of your skin impressions. Then take your toothpick and make that thin. So I'm going to take a leg impression here too. And I'm going to take some of this with the toothpick over to the leg. And he said, just put it down on there. Really thin. I got way too thick on that one. He said, just put a thin layer on there. And then when it cures, you can cut that out and glue it down to your kit, just like you're doing a skin graft. That's what he said to do. And he's probably right. I can probably get a nice skin graft on that. So I've got an arm and a leg right there. I'm not going to do any more because I need to keep the tails to work right now. But there you go. That's what you can do with the... You can make a skin graft this way. And this is going to take a while to cure up. It's not going to cure up, again, really fast. I suspect it's going to be about an hour. I mean, it's going to be overnight. So I got to put this someplace kind of dust free for the next bit. Well, not dust free. I don't really care if dust gets in it. What am I saying? I'm using it to make footprints with. But it's got to sit someplace for a while. So I'm going to go work on a bookcase while that's curing. I'm not going to work on his tail because I don't want to disturb this. Actually, I can move down. I've got the workbench clear enough. I can work on his tail. But I'd rather let this sit for a while first. And just let it cure up for an hour or two. It'll get where it's real sluggish and not willing to flow in about an hour. And that's about as much time as it'll take me to do one of the bookcases. So I will be back in a bit and we can see what we got. Okay? Hope you're enjoying this. I am. I know I don't sound convincing, do I?